Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today, we're going to talk about 8 signs that you are awakening before the coming shift. And by the end of the video, we're also going to discuss what the difference is between an empath and someone who is clairsentient. They're very similar, but there is a distinct key difference. So basically, there's 8 senses that operate beyond the physical. You call them the clear senses, right? The clairvoyance, the clairaudience, the clairsentience, the clairgustance, the clairsalience, and the other 3. But in this video, we're going to talk about 8 signs that you are awakening before the shift. And they don't necessarily cover all of those 8 senses, but they're definitely 8 signs that are very, very common. If you haven't watched my videos before, you know that I cover, well, if you haven't watched, then you don't know, but I cover a lot of different occult topics, and I like to gear most of this information to where it's very easily digestible for a beginner. So after this video, you're definitely going to have things to go research on your own. So the first sign comes from, well, the first sign was kind of triggered to me by reading through some posts in our Facebook group, the Magus Society, and a member named Lamar made a very interesting post about how oftentimes lately he feels like there are people listening to his thoughts. And that really reminded me of a time frame when I was first getting into the occult, right? I was 15 years old, just got my first job, and I was experimenting a lot with developing psychic abilities and things of that nature. What happened was there was a short phase where I really started to get very paranoid, because it felt like as I went through the grocery store or just out in public or at my job, people would be hearing my thoughts, right? I would look into people's eyes and feel like they're judging me, right? I'd feel like people were laughing at the things that I was thinking. And it wasn't just general and random. It usually be in reference to me thinking about them or having an experience with them, right? I'd feel very self-conscious and things like that. What I came to find out later is when you're first developing your psychic abilities, you're developing a new sense, right? And this is the clairaudience, right? Where you're able to hear, right, on the astral plane. It's more of a sensing of what the other person is thinking in their mind. So what's going on here is every energetic exchange is two-way. It's a two-way exchange, right? You give energy and you also receive energy. When you're first opening up that psychic connection, that psychic link, you're able to hear what another person is thinking. Now, it isn't always crystal clear. Sometimes it's just a small sense. But this is definitely something that starts to awake within you when you start to develop your psychic abilities. All right. So, yeah, like I said, that falls up under the whole clairaudience aspect of things. So really what to do when you're experiencing this is to do what I like to call maintaining your frame, right? Staying in control of what's going on in your mind. Understand that energetic connections are a two-way street, and it's not that a person is hearing your thoughts, it's that you're experiencing the connection. So take away fear and understand that if you feel like they can hear your thoughts, that's actually you responding to you hearing their thoughts. Sounds a little bit complicated, but do a little bit of research, a little bit of practice, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So the second thing that starts to happen, not in this order, but the second thing that starts to happen is you begin to kind of see shadows and shadow people kind of out of the corner of your eye, right? It might be late at night, you might be in a room watching a movie, and you might kind of see something run across. Most of the time we just dismiss this as, I'm being paranoid, I just watched a scary movie, so clearly I'm scared. This has happened to me throughout the years, on and off. It's never really been a big thing, but I'm sure if you're watching these videos and if you've watched my videos, this has happened in your life where you kind of see what you might call a ghost even, or just something kind of shuffle in the shadows. I recently just moved into this place, and previously at my last apartment, I didn't really have many sightings like that, but I've noticed since I've been here, in one particular room, right, I'm up late at night playing Apex Legends, and I will almost every night see something that's kind of walk across the room, right, and I'll turn and look and no one's there, right? I'll see something kind of walk across the corner of my eye, and every time I look, nothing's there. There's even a motion sensor light right there above the stairs, and around 3 a.m. at night when I'm playing this game, it always seems like the light keeps coming on and going off. But anyways, you'll notice that when you start to awaken, you start to develop a version of clairvoyance, which is astral seeing, right? And sometimes this entails you seeing spirits or energy from the subtle corner of your eye or whatever. Like I said, most people dismiss this as nothing, but this is definitely something that starts to come online when you begin to awaken. Again, maintain your frame. Don't start to be afraid. Don't take this as something to be afraid of. This is just you opening up to the other layers of reality that are on top of this very reality. The third thing that you'll begin to experience, again, not in this order, is you begin to start seeing a lot of synchronicity. Okay, you'll begin to notice that a lot of times there's things that you talk about or think about and it begins to happen right there in real life. Or you may be thinking about a certain thing, and as you're scrolling, minutes later you'll see an ad based on that thing. Now, because we live in the technological age, a lot of people like to attribute that to, oh, Facebook is listening and Google is listening, and they're trying to advertise to you based off of the things that you're thinking about. While this may be true to a degree, don't give the idea of technology so much power that you'll be thinking about something and it manifests on your phone minutes later. That isn't realistic. We're definitely not there yet. But your thoughts do produce your reality. Your thoughts are magnetic and they attract the things that you focus your attention on. Attention is the most powerful thing in the universe. So whatever you focus your attention on, you'll begin to manifest that thing. Right? And this all links to how the subconscious mind generates your reality. The subconscious mind is the powerhouse that brings everything into fruition. So whatever you're focusing your attention on, the subconscious mind very likely will begin to manifest that thing in reality. So that's another reason why it's very important to maintain your frame and to pay attention to what you're thinking, right? To be very intentional with what you're thinking. Advertising and the media and all the things that distract us have a way of pushing our attention and grabbing our attention, right? And this usually benefits some other third party. So it's very important to make sure that you're spending the majority of your time focusing your attention on things that you want to manifest out of life. So the next thing that you'll start to notice is very in line with the synchronicities, but it's actually deja vu, right? When you start to come online, you'll notice there's a lot of deja vu. And I'm not gonna admit that I understand exactly what deja vu is. I don't think anybody does just yet, but we can definitely say that deja vu is linked to experiencing a fragment outside of time, experiencing multiple realities, right? Because what often happens in deja vu is you'll go through an experience and it feels like you've already been through that experience verbatim, right? It's definitely tapping into the fact that we have multiple realities all linked to this one, and depending on what decision you make puts you on that different trajectory. So sometimes you can kind of sense ahead what's going on in this path, right? And this is another form of claircognizance, of knowing, right, without actually having any evidence or proof. So again, as we get closer to the shift, a lot of people's different abilities are starting to come online. And they come online slowly, sometimes they come online suddenly, but the key thing is to not be afraid. The key thing is to try to understand and learn as much as you can. There's plenty of books, there's plenty of videos, but the best way to learn is by experience, is by sitting down and interacting with these senses, with practicing and trying. There's different books out there like Cyclomancy or Psychastra that can help you with developing these abilities. Also a book called Initiation to Hermetics, written by Franz Barton. The first two books I mentioned, Cyclomancy and Psychastra, are written by Frank Rudolph Jung. You can certainly find these online, on Amazon, and in other places. Aside from the deja vu, we also wanted to say about deja vu is I think it also deals with tapping into the dream realm, right? If you look at the way that reality is structured, you've got the mental plane up at the top, and as the mental plane begins to solidify, you've got the spiritual realm. And in the spiritual astral realm, this is where dreams happen, right? Now, the spiritual realm, as it develops more and more gravity, it pushes down and it begins to develop physical realm, begins to develop physicality. So oftentimes when we dream, we are existing up in this astral plane. And again, we're able to tap into what's called the Akashic Records, which is really a repository of every thought and experience that ever was and ever will be. If you look into the Kabbalah and look up the sphere of Yesod, it'll talk about how this astral plane really has the ability to affect what happens on the physical, because it's the repository of all the, all the different influences of the spheres of the Tree of Life. It all condenses down in the astral plane, in Yesod, in the sphere of the moon. And once it's been distilled and solidified, it presses down into the Malkuth plane, the earth plane. So everything starts in the mental and in the spiritual, then the physical. Physical does not exist without spirit. But speaking of dreams and the moon and Yesod, the next thing that you'll begin to experience when you start to come online is the fact that you'll begin to have intense dreams. So just last night or this morning or whatever, I had this very awesome dream. I've been doing a little bit of path working myself, so I found myself in the Yesod plane actually, and it was a very intense dream, very symbol rich. I was listening to this song and I was very immersed in this song, and it was a lucid dream. I was awake and I realized what was going on. Fortunately, the song wasn't real, but the whole time I thought it was. And I just knew when I woke up, I was going to turn this song on, dissect the lyrics. And I was even going to make a little video about it and put it on my YouTube channel here, because the song really explained the mechanics of God, right? How the universe is structured and how exactly it works. Interestingly enough, the Yetziratic phrase for the moon and Yesod is the machinery of God. So I really found myself in that place. Anyway, as I started to come to, the dream, as always, started to fade away. So I had to quickly write down what I could. But anyways, you'll begin to have intense dreams, very intense dreams. This is now a good time to start practicing lucid dreaming and astral travel, as your abilities are starting to come online. Since it's still fresh and brand new and exciting to you, this is a good time to start to try to practice astral travel and lucid dreaming. A great book to look up how to do astral travel and lucid dreaming is a book called Astral Dynamics, and there's also a book called, let me go grab them. So yeah, definitely the art and practice of astral projection, and that's by Ophiel. I've recommended this before. But Astral Dynamics is written by Robert Bruce. That's another excellent book that really breaks down step by step what you want to do and what to expect when it comes to astral traveling. So the seventh thing that begins to happen, and again not in this order, is you'll find that you have more faith and more trust in the spirit realm. You'll start to trust your senses and your intuition more naturally. Some people really have a lot of struggle when it comes to trusting those senses, but you'll notice as you begin to experience more and more of these strange phenomena and things like that, you begin to lean on and trust more of the spirit. So this is a good indication that you want to listen closely to your intuition, and you want to begin working more with affirmations, right? You want to begin to work more with speaking your life into existence, telling yourself that I am whole, I am complete, I am powerful, different things like that that you want to say over and over to help produce that reality in your life. Let this book over here. So the eighth thing that you'll begin to experience when you notice that you start to come online is, and this is my favorite one because it's probably been the most intense, or rather what I've been going through a lot lately. It is the inability to be around negative energy and rough, just harsh energy and harsh people, right? You'll begin to get a lot more sensitive to where you can really pick up on a person's energy and people who just aren't working on themselves, who aren't developing themselves, and who don't have good intentions. You'll begin to tell from a mile away. Now, I remember through the years, I used to get this intuitive feeling that this person wasn't, I didn't need to be around them. They're not worth my time and they're not good for me. I'd feel that often, and I'd often ignore it and give people the benefit of the doubt. It's been my weakness for a long time, giving people the benefit of the doubt. And always at the end of the day, I would realize why I would have that intuition. So over the years, I've been learning to trust my intuition, And if I feel this sense about somebody, I don't need to explain it. I don't need to rationalize with myself. I just know that it's time for me to separate or keep my distance. And again, as time tells, usually it was a good decision. So you'll also begin to notice right now that you just cannot stand or be around people who are just not vibrating on your level. Now, unfortunately, often people that have been in your life for years, you'll start to notice that it's time for you to break away from them, right? It's time for you to spiral away. One might go down in a 6 pattern, one goes up in a 9 pattern. But that's really a big thing that's going on right now. You're learning that you have to separate yourself from people that have been in your life and are not contributing or adding in a positive way at all. And if that is the case for you, more power to you. Do what you got to do, because it will definitely benefit you in the long run. These people often drain your energy and cause you to influence you to make decisions that are not in your best interest. So it is the best thing for you to do right now to separate from these people. You will survive. Trust me, you don't need anyone else. All you need is yourself, because you came in this world by yourself. You're going to leave by yourself. You definitely don't need anyone who's going to hinder your growth or hinder your process. Now, I mentioned in the beginning I was going to talk about the difference between an empath and a clairsentient. Okay, so to do so, I want to talk about these 8 different senses. And I did mention them before, right? Because the reason I gave that whole list is what's going on as you awaken is that these 8 senses are beginning to activate, right? And they activate with different intensities depending on the person. But what you really want to do is pay attention to these things, to trust yourself, and start to try your best to develop these things. All right, so the first one I mentioned before is clairaudience. This is the ability to hear things that are on the astral plane or on the spiritual realm. And this may happen as voices. This may be happening as hearing people's thoughts or things of that nature. That's clairaudience. The next one is clairvoyance, and this is the ability to see beyond sight, right? This is what you want to develop when you're working with spirits, working with ancestors, or working with energy. It's creative visualization. It starts as creative visualization, but as you begin to develop this, it will become clairvoyance. All right, the next one is called claircognizance, and this is the act of knowing, right? Knowing without having any proof, just kind of knowing and trusting your intuition. And that would go up under with synchronicity and deja vu and having these intense dreams, premonitions. This all comes with claircognizance. All right, the next one is clairgustance, and this has to do with taste, right? This has to do with sometimes you can taste things and this kind of gives you a sense. By the way, that makes me remember that I forgot the 8th thing, which is your diet begins to change. And what happens with your dietary changes is you'll find that as you are working on spirit, more or less you are needing to eat less, or you're noticing that maybe you don't like to eat meat anymore, or there's different things that you may have had all your life but you feel that it's time to let go of. So yeah, that is probably the 8th thing that you're going to experience on your awakening, and that would fall up under clairgustance. Aside from clairgustance, there's also clairempathy, which is an empath, and this is you being able to emotionally feel, right? You're able to enter a room and you're able to feel the emotions of other people. All right, the next one is clairtangency, and this is you being able to touch or feel. Like sometimes people might walk into a room and they might feel something graze the shoulder or something like that. It also is defined by being able to touch an object, and you'll be able to kind of get a sense for where that object has been or the type of energy that's been around that object. The next one is clairsalience, and that involves the smelling, being able to get into the trance zone through smell. That's where incense comes into play. But also some people have the ability to where they might smell their grandmother's perfume, and that kind of lets them know that their grandmother's energy is near. That kind of thing. There's all types of possibilities. The last one is clairsentience, and this is the being able to physically feel, right? Having that gut feeling as opposed to the emotional feeling. So that's really the difference between the empath and the clairsentient. The empath is able to sense the energy that's nearby. You might walk into a room and really sense that a person is bad news or a situation is a good situation, whereas the clairsentient is able to experience these feelings, right? The clairsentient walks into a room, and if you're able to notice the energy of somebody who's very negative, you can kind of feel their thoughts. You kind of experience what they're thinking and what's going through their minds. And it might kind of give you a very off-putting vibe and cause you to separate from that person. And likewise, a good thing. Like, you might be able to be around somebody and just kind of mesh with them very well, because you can experience what's going on inside of their energy. So yeah, this was just a little breakdown video on those 8 things and those 8 senses that you begin to experience as you come online. And just reading the comments and the posts in the Magus Society, I'm seeing that a lot of people are starting to experience these more and more every day. So if you're experiencing them, get to researching and practicing, and get rid of fear, because you don't need it. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Peace.